Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Feels like a long time since I was up here before you in opening statements. I opened opening statements with the simple facts that on March 12, 2007, Claudia Hoerig shot and killed Claudia Hoerig. I told you from the start that's what happened. I got up here and told you exactly what the evidence would be and the evidence would show. I told you what this case was about, was the why. Why did she shoot him? Ladies and gentlemen, the state has to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that Claudia Hoerig had a plan, had prior calculation design, and had premeditation to kill Claudia Hoerig on March 12, 2007. Mr. Dennis Watkins got up in opening statements, ladies and gentlemen. He told you that her plan was to ambush Claudia Hoerig while he sat on the steps, that she shot him in the back while he put his shoes on. He told you Dr. Philo would provide significant evidence and tell you that is how it occurred. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the state got up in its closing argument. They did not mention the word ambush once. They did only stated that he was putting his shoes on because that's what the doctor and Mr. Watkins put forward. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard me ask the detective, did any witness ever say he put his shoes on in that spot? No. Was there any evidence he ever put his shoes on in that spot? No. The idea that he ever had anything to do with putting his shoes on is clearly nothing more than a theory. There is not a single piece of evidence to that. In fact, the evidence is the opposite. We went over the pictures that showed his shoes. If a man is sitting on steps, putting his shoes on, bends over all the way like this, and he's shot in the back and falls down, his left shoe is not going to be on the wrong side of him, facing the steps. His other shoe is not going to be underneath him, facing the steps. Did the state ever address that? Did the state provide any theory, anything about that? Did the vaunted Dr. Philo ever state a word about that? They brought in a crime scene reconstructionist. They brought a gentleman in whose sole purpose and job is to reconstruct crime scenes. And what did he tell you? He told you there were two shots. He can tell you she was either at the top of the steps or at the middle of the steps. He did not testify once about Mr. Hoerig sitting on the steps or anything like that. Let's talk about Dr. Philo. Dr. Philo is a forensic pathologist. I asked Detective Pizzullo on the stand, Detective Pizzullo, who's investigated most of the murders in this county, said, forensic pathologists tell you how and why a person was died. Crime scene reconstructionists put all the evidence together and do that. Dr. Philo testified he's not a crime scene reconstructionist. You're going to get Dr. Philo's report. It's going to say in there he believes Carl Hoerig was sitting on the steps when he was shot. You're going to get Dr. Germanic's report of the same type that was taken and made at the time of the incident. You're going to hear you heard Dr. Germanic went out to the scene. Dr. Germanic saw the scene, did the autopsy, prepared a report. You know what Dr. Germanic's report does not include? It does not include statements that Carl Hoerig was bent over when he was shot. It doesn't include a statement that he had to be laying on the floor when he was shot because the bullet didn't go through the ground. You heard from the current coroner that a new report had to be done, but nobody asked him. He's the coroner. He's the one who goes out and gets reports. Not in this case. Dr. Philo was hired specifically by the prosecution. Dr. Philo talked with the prosecution, as he said on the stand. Dr. Philo prepared a report that they requested. Let's talk about the rest of his testimony. He says in his report, Carl had to be laying on the floor when he got shot with a bullet that went through his heart because it didn't go through the floor. I asked Dr. Philo, have you seen somebody standing up get shot where it doesn't go through all the way? Yep, I've seen that. Let's talk about this. Dr. Philo said the shot that killed him, the shot that went through the back and through the heart, came out downward from above. Carl Hoerig is laying flat on the ground from the steps, facing away from the steps. For Dr. Philo to be correct, and for the state to be correct with their evidence, Carl Hoerig is sitting on the steps. He is bent all the way over. Claudia Hoerig shoots him once in the shoulder with a non-immobilizing shot. She then fires 2 more times, missing. Carl is laying on the ground. She walks down the steps. She walks past him because she has to be above his head for a downward shot. Turns around, shoots him in the back, walks back, shoots him in the head. It's ridiculous. There's a reason the state didn't talk about any of the evidence of the shooting. Why? Why did she shoot him? Why did she come up with this entire plan for premeditation? The state told you in opening it was because he was leaving her. Now, if she was so afraid of him leaving her, if she didn't want a divorce, why, after she gets out of the hospital after her suicide attempt, does she go back on Match.com and start meeting another person? Why is she talking with Bruce Rogers? Why is she carrying on a relationship with him if she's so upset by her husband leaving her that she's going to kill her? Now, Bruce Rogers. Interesting thing about Bruce Rogers is he was on the state's witness list.
Objection.
Criminal Rule 16 says I can clearly comment on it.
He was on the list and he wasn't called.
Right.
Don't comment on what he might have said.
I did not. He was on the witness list. The state had indicated he was on their list. The state knew about Mr. Rogers. Prior calculation design. What evidence is there of prior calculation design? None. Zero. She bought the gun 2 days before. She sent the money to Brazil. Yes. It's all part of the story. The state wants to make a big deal about the fact that Claudia brought up all of the bad things that had happened in their marriage. Yes, because it's a story. This story, this event, starts with her suicide attempt in February when she drove off the road, tried to kill herself, and spent 7 days locked up in a mental hospital. This all happened right about a month before the murder, or the killing, or whatever we want. Okay? So right beforehand, she's obviously suicidal. What led up to that? Why is she at that point attempting to kill herself? She told you all of the things that had happened in the past. Where was her marriage? How was her marriage going? What was her life looking like? Okay, in February of 2007, she's now been married to Mr. Hoerig going on 2 years. She has left New York. She has relocated to Ohio. She's left friends. She's left everything. She's come out here for a job. And her marriage is awful. Her marriage is awful. She's here. She's had 2 miscarriages. Things are not going well. She decides she's going to kill herself. She's fragile. She spends 7 days in an institution. She gets out. She gets out of the institution on February 12th. She gets out of the institution on February 12th, and what happens on the 13th? She gets fired from her job. The thing that's so important to her. She gets fired from work. So now we're at February 14th. She's in a marriage that stinks. She just got fired from her job. She's in a city where she doesn't know anybody. Things are going along. And now we get to March 9th. And she finds out she's pregnant. Finds out she's pregnant with a husband who doesn't want a child, who doesn't want her child. She's pregnant. She's got $12,000 in the bank. She's got a condo with a mortgage that's rented out to somebody paying the mortgage. She's in a city where she knows hardly anybody. She doesn't have a job. She just tried to commit suicide because she's so upset with the way things are going. She's not, ladies and gentlemen, in a rational state. She decides, as she told you, that she's going to do a plan A and a plan B. Plan A is she's going to try and fix things up with Carl and get things going. By the way, she told you, she knew Carl was seeing other people. She got up here, she told you that she'd asked for divorce. She thought they were going for divorce, right up until she got pregnant. Ladies and gentlemen, she gets up here. She figures out she's pregnant. Now, ladies and gentlemen, she's sitting there on March 9th. No job, a city with no friends, $12,000 in the bank, a condo in New York City that somebody rented out, a husband who wants a divorce and doesn't want a kid. She's not in a good place. So she comes up with a statement, a plan. Plan B. Plan B is if Carl says, no, I'm not having this kid, she's killing myself. Plan A is I'm going to win Carl back. She tells you on the stand a number of things that the state doesn't dispute. She tells you, and we all agree, she went to the store and she bought a gun, .357 for slug masters. She lied to the person at the store and said she wanted it for protection. Yeah, she lied at the store, she wanted protection. You heard the person. If somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to buy this gun to kill myself, they're not selling them a gun. So she goes to the store and buys a gun. She buys ammunition for the gun. She gets laser grips put on the gun. She buys two kinds of ammunition, ladies and gentlemen, .357 and .38. Interestingly, the person at the gun store tells you .357 hollow points are what you use when you want to stop and kill somebody. .38s are what you use for practice. When you look at the report of Dr. Chappelle, and you'll have the report, and you'll remember his testimony, that the bullets they pulled out of Carl Hoerig, the bullets they pulled out that killed him, were .38s.
I don't object, Your Honor.
It's in the report. We asked him.
Ladies and
That's the
gentlemen,
size of the bullet.
ladies and gentlemen, you recall the testimony when you go back in the jury room. What the attorneys are saying in closing is not evidence. Go ahead.
You can go look at the report. You're going to see it says they found .357 shells, and specifically states the bullets that pulled out of Carl Hoerig are .38 caliber. Mr. Russo got up on examination and specifically asked him, Mr. Chappelle, the bullets you pulled out were .38 caliber. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, if I'm planning to kill somebody, if you are planning to kill somebody, like the state says, with a .357 you buy, with special hollow point rounds you buy, with a laser sight you buy, you don't then shoot them with .38s. Let's talk about the rest of the onions. Ms. Hoerig got up here and explained to you. She explained to you that her idea was to kill herself, and that she did research on the internet, that there was a file on her computer, and she was concerned about the recoil of the gun, pulling the gun away, and causing her to blow half her face off, instead of killing herself. She testified she went out to the target range. She testified that she went out and she tried to figure out what the recoil would be, and said, oops, you can't factor recoil in. So what did she do? She went back to the house where she built a device you will see that they found. Mounted it in the closet with a hole for the specific purpose of killing herself. Ladies and gentlemen, she didn't make that up. It's there. It's physical evidence. And she told you when she was on the stand that the night before Carl's death, she got on the computer and spent hours searching .357 and suicide. She spent hours searching death by suicide and records by suicide. All the records were on a computer, and she said the state has her computer. All of that evidence, all of those things she said about Carl, the state wants to get up and say, Carl's not here, we can't prove it. We can't. What did she say? She said Carl liked to go on a website called Hogtie. I say hogtie.com because I put hogtie.com on everything. And you know what? Watch the interview. Detective Yanucci says, I know hogtie.com. I know that website. Got her to testify, yeah, we found hogtie.com on Carl's computer. As to the other evidence, she talks at length about how Carl treated her and how the marriage went. And the state says, oh, that's just her talking. Yeah, but let's look at, for example, Gary Dodge. Gary Dodge is Carl's best friend. Gary said, I'm his best friend. We did stuff together all the time. I met Claudia. We went out and did things. Carl Dodge, or Mr. Dodge was asked about Claudia. And what did he say? He said, Carl, his last couple of girlfriends were exotic, international girls. Talking about Claudia and Carla. Ladies and gentlemen, during your experience, do you talk about your friends' wives that way unless they do? Ladies and gentlemen, Claudia says in her interview that Carl was fascinated and continued to talk about his ex, Carla, and that she looked like Carla. And what's Mr. Dodge get up and say? Claudia looked like Carla, or looked like Carla. He was fascinated with Carla. Ladies and gentlemen, Claudia says all sorts of things on that tape that can be confirmed or denied if they wanted. She talks about meetings with the family. She talks about times the whole family met and what Steve said. The state says, oh, she's lying. You can't believe a word she says. She's not credible. Why didn't they bring in Steve? Why didn't they bring in the family? Ladies and gentlemen, the why matters in this case. And because of that, it's a simple case. The why is simple. On March 12, 2007, Claudia Hoerig had a plan A and a plan B. Plan A was to win Carl back. Plan B was to kill herself. You will see the email letter she sent to Carl that morning about wanting to win him back. She says he came home. She says at that point, they had the conversation in the bedroom. He showered. The conversation didn't go well. He didn't want children. He says to her, in fact, I'm going to adopt my daughter's child, but I don't want your kid. Heck yeah, she was hurt. Heck yeah, she was upset. But she doesn't do anything then. No. She walks away. He shuts the door. She walks around the house. She's not in a good state of mind. She finds a bottle of alcohol and starts drinking. Should you drink alcohol when you're pregnant? No. When you are dealing with an emotional crisis of the magnitude she is dealing with, just less than 30 days after you try to commit suicide, you don't do rational things. Ladies and gentlemen, the state found a half bottle of alcohol in the bedroom where the suicide ring was, where the gun was found. Ms. Hoerig states she walked around. She didn't know what to do. She's still reeling, but she wants to fight for her marriage and her child. So she eventually gets the gun. She walks upstairs. She confronts him. She's standing there with the gun to his head. He knocks her down. She says, I want to talk. He says words to the effect of, killing yourself's a good idea. Wait for me to leave. Do it in the basement so you can get blood on my pants. Ladies and gentlemen, that is quite possibly one of the worst things you could ever say to someone who's just tried to commit suicide 28 days later. She's testifying about her husband telling her, I don't care about you. I don't care about the child. I care about you so little that kill yourself, please, but make sure you do it so it doesn't inconvenience me. On the tape, watch what she says. She says on the tape, if he didn't say that, he would be alive. At that point, she loses it. She thinks she loses it. She gets up. She shoots him. She remembers the first shot. Boom. She says, I think he's dead because of A, B, C, because he stumbled, because of this, that. She doesn't remember necessarily what happened next, but the evidence tells us she walked down the steps, she fired twice missing, or fired once hitting, 3 shots, doesn't matter what it was. We know, if you look at the photos, that the shot, that head straight here in the back upward, if you look at the photograph, it's actually hit up here. If you look at the photographs, what Mr. Feely talked about is the angle of Carl's leg. As Carl's laying there, he's not laying flat. He's laying at an angle like this, with his right shoulder up. Dr. Philo told you that depending on where the body changes the angle. So he testified that that shot came in almost parallel with Carl's back. We take that picture that you're going to have back there and we turn it to the side. All of a sudden, that bullet's coming in at the angle. You'll see Dr. Philo's report, it matches the angle of the 2 misses. The 2 misses, that The accident reconstructionist says were fired in the middle of the stairs. She shoots him once. She's absolutely enraged in a white hot rage. Shoots him once, walks down the stairs, fires 3 more times, gets to the bottom of the stairs, and shoots him in the head. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a woman who was just told by this man, I care so little about you that you should go kill yourself and make sure you don't get it on my stuff. Flight. I told you from the start, she got up and she went to Brazil. I told you exactly how it happened. The evidence says exactly how it happened. There's a whole string of phone calls in the records, in the phone records, from her to family in Brazil. She says she tried to go back and kill herself, but 2 bullets worked. The 2 bullets she thought she had in the gun, she didn't. So she walks in the basement, reloads the gun. Where's the gun found? The gun is found, cocked, loaded, ready to use in the suicide. Consistent with her story that she called her family, they told her not to commit suicide. So she did. But she said she was all ready. Now, I'm not a theologian, but you can take your own members' understandings. Many places, many religions consider committing suicide the ultimate sin, and you can't be buried in hallowed ground. Murder's bad, suicide's worse. Her family tells her, look, don't commit suicide, come home, we'll deal with this, we're going to be supportive. There's a lawyer saying, Ohio has the death penalty, get out. She gets on the computer, she says, yep, checks orbits, finds flights. At this point, hours have elapsed since the She gets in the car and she drives away. She drives to the bank, does her banking, drives to the airport, an hour and a half away. State wants to make a big deal out of the fact nobody at the airport thought she was odd, smelled her drunk. Well, quite a bit of time elapsed. She's got to call the family. She's got to get everything set up in the house. She's got to cover her. She's got to decide what to do. She's freaking out. She goes to the bank. She's got to get back to her safety deposit box. Ladies and gentlemen, if she's planning to kill her husband, if her plan is, I'm going to shoot Carl Hoerig, and I'm going to shoot him on March 12th, why does she go to the safety deposit box twice? Why does she go the day before, or 2 days before the shooting, and withdraw $9,900 to send to her family? The state got up here and said, look, that's evidence that she's got prior calculations. Man, she sent $9,909 to Brazil. If I'm going to send $9,900 to Brazil as part of my plan to shoot my husband, and I'm going to flee to Brazil, I don't leave my passport and my other important papers in the safety deposit box, so I got to go back after I kill him. I don't leave $3,000 in my bank account so that I got to go back to the bank to take it out for my flight. She sent the $9,900 to Brazil, like all of the other money she sent to Brazil, to support her family. You heard testimony from detectives that she did that on a regular basis. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the state says prior calculation design, prior calculation of design. She never looked for flights before this. She had no plan for an escape. She had nothing packed. Yeah, you can't take 70 shoes and how many ever outfits you have, but you can take something. Now, the state wants to make a big deal out of the fact that Carl had rented a place and was moving out. Yeah, she told you she knew she was getting divorced was happening. That's why she's trying to win him back. She knows things are going bad. We talk about Carl. What sort of person, 11 days after their wife attempt to commit suicide, goes and rents a place to live so that he can move out of the house and abandon her? Because that's what he did, according to the state. She gets out of the hospital February 12th. She loses her job February 13th. On February 23rd, he's already putting money down on a new place. Prior calculation of design. The state wants to make a big deal out of the statement of a witness who 8 months prior to this heard Claudia say, if he ever leaves me, I'm going to kill him. Well, let's talk about that young lady. She's a friend of Carl's. She runs around in the same circles as Carl. She knows all the Air Force buddies. She says she wants justice for Carl. When did she come forward with her statement? When did she tell the police about this statement? In 2018, after Claudia's return to the U.S. She testified on the stand that she heard about Carl's death the day or the day after it happened. She knew that he was murdered and Claudia was a suspect. She knew at that time what she had heard was important. And she says nothing. Nothing for almost 11 years. Now, what was the story that they were telling about Carl? We don't know. She could tell you if it was a good story or a bad story. That was the evidence. That's their whole evidence and basis for she wanted to kill him if he was leaving her was somebody's statement 11 years before that they remembered 11 years later. They have no other witnesses who say, God, she was upset about this divorce. God, she was upset if she was leaving him. Nothing. Because it's not there. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Hoerig told you what happened. She got up and voluntarily stated what happened while she came back publicly. Watch the interview. The state wants to make a big deal about what she said about Carl and all the bad stuff. Watch the interview. Watch how long it takes her before she says the bad things. How many times she says, I don't want to say the bad things. I don't want to hurt his family. I like his family. They shouldn't know the bad things. But if I tell just the bad things, if I don't tell the bad things, it's going to be bad for me. And the officers say repeatedly, you need to tell us everything. We want to know everything. We want to know how it's going. She says, is his family ever going to hear this? And they say, oh no, they may hear it at some point, but no, they're not going to hear it. I mean, she doesn't get up on that interview and get up and the first thing she does is start blasting Claudia Hoerig with 11 years of vented frustration about how terrible she was. No, she spends 20 minutes to half an hour saying, I don't want to say the bad things about Carl. I don't want to tell you about Carl because his family doesn't know it, because his parents don't know it, and I don't want them to go through the pain of hearing how it really was. It's only after she's pressured and poked and prodded by the police that she does so. Ladies and gentlemen, why matters? That's why we have 3 charges that you are going to get told. Why matters? If you find that she had prior calculation design, that if she had a plan, the state doesn't have to prove motive, but motive can be considered as reason for prior calculation design. There's no motive. There's no prior calculation in design. They can talk about how she bought the gun 2 days beforehand and she transferred the money 2 days before. Yeah, that's baby prior calculation. If that's her plan, then why isn't she booking flights? Why isn't she doing a whole lot of things? Why isn't she packing all this stuff up and the minute Carl opens the door, shooting him in the head? This is a husband and wife. There's a lot of ways to plan and kill somebody. Ladies and gentlemen, the state has to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that she had prior calculation design, and they can't. They can't even come up with a version of the events of the shooting that shows anything different than what she said. Ladies and gentlemen, what happened on March 12th, 2007 is exactly what Claudia Hoerig said. She lost her temper after the horrible statements he made. She shot him 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. She walks down the steps. She shoots him 1 time in the head. That's exactly what happened. There's no prior calculation. Ladies and gentlemen, this case comes down to the why. Why? It's either murder or it's voluntary manslaughter. If you find that the defense has proven enough, shown you and given you enough evidence to prove by preponderance of the doubt that she had reason to be upset, to be mad, to have her blood boiling to a sufficient level to kill somebody, that's voluntary manslaughter. If you say, nope, she didn't, that's murder. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for sitting through this. Thank you for listening to all of the evidence. I implore you, when you go back, to look at the evidence, to think about what you've been shown, and to make the state prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt each and every element, most specifically that she had prior calculation design. I believe when you go back and you look at the evidence, you'll find that not only did they not prove prior calculation and design beyond a reasonable doubt, they didn't prove it at all. Thank you.